What's going on, Amazing Race fans? This is another episode of the Amazing Reviews, recapping Amazing Race Season 37, Episode 4. Joining me tonight is none other than Calbert. Calbert, what's up?
What's going on, everybody?
Did you have a good week, Calbert?
I did. Back-to-back first places. We'll take that anytime we can get it.
Well, yep. That is true. Lots to go over tonight, and I'm sure I'll be asking you your opinion on how your team, because they made a lot of choices this week, so there's a lot to cover, so little time. So let's just jump right in. So this week, the leg started. Teams were instructed to fly to Denpasar, Indonesia, on the island of Bali, with teams required to book their flight at GS Travel. Once there, teams had to travel by taxi to the Pura Pusat, Bali, Aga, Bayad, and wait until morning for their next clue. Teams then had to drive an ATV to a waterfall and retrieve their next clue, which sent them to the rice fields in Tampaksairing. So, first things first here. So, at the airport, we have three teams that all kind of decided, hey, we're all going to kind of stick together in the driver's seat. To me, it kind of looked like they kind of had a pact going on. Calbert, what was your thoughts? And just so we're aware, the three teams were Carson and Jack, Jonathan and Anna, and Jack and Lori.
That's what I thought. I
mean, Scott and Lori. I'm sorry, not Jack. Yeah. Scott. Sorry,
yep.
Go ahead.
Yep. No, you're good. No, that's exactly what it looked like to me. Because as the episode would play out, obviously when all three of those teams got to the mat, they all went, "Oh, that was kind of interesting," blah, blah, blah. But that's pretty much what it looked like. And I mean, what are you supposed to do? Like, you get all excited, and then you have to sit and wait until the sun actually rises before you can even start.
Yeah.
So I don't know what you're supposed to do. So,
my question is, I wonder what they did do in that time frame, because do you just sit there? Do you just wait by the gates?
Like, I would have assumed that they might have gotten some sleep, tried to get some sleep, because they got there at like 2:00 in the morning, roughly. The first three teams said anyway, roughly.
Right. That's no time to get a hotel. It's too late.
Right. So my guess is they probably found a place to sleep. And then just went, okay, let's go.
Yeah.
So I didn't really, I didn't have an issue with that. It made sense. We've kind of seen teams already kind of teaming up already. So.
Oh yeah. Yeah. No, I don't have an issue with the pack that they made, but I kind of do have an issue with what they did later on. But because I just think it's, let's not skip ahead yet. But so what did you think of the ATV ride through the trails?
That was really cool. That was really cool, because you got to go, for the audience at home, you got to pretty much go through like basically a small little cave too.
Yes.
To get to the waterfall to get your clue. So it was really, really cool. Really, really cool.
And they got to go through the jungle, waterfall.
Yep.
A little bit of everything, right?
Yeah. A little bit of everything.
Yep. Yeah, that was really cool. That would have been the one thing that I would have loved to have done for sure. Yeah, I mean, the cave might have been a little tad scary. It was kind of tight in there, but
sure.
It looks like the path was wide enough, for them to get that. So that's pretty much it. I mean, the scenery was great. Everything looked really good on TV there. So some amazing views. But after that, in this leg's roadblock, one team member had to thresh a designated amount of rice before receiving their next clue. Teams encountered a driver's seat where the first team to arrive at the board determined how much rice racers had to thresh at the roadblock. Jonathan and Anna took control of the driver's seat and publicly assigned 15 pounds to themselves, and Melinda and Eric 20 pounds to Brett and Mark, Carson and Jack, and Han and Holden, and 25 pounds to Alyssa and Josiah, Bernie and Kerrigan, Nick and Mike, Pops and Jeff, and Scott and Lori. So, all right. So this is the first thing. I did not care for the placement of the driver's seat. I think they should have done the detour first because there wasn't a lot of separation that you could have had between last episode to this. And there was a few separations, but they didn't really have to do a task. I think it was just basically how fast your cab driver went. So not exactly sure on how the placement for this went over. What are your thoughts?
Well, but it also depended on the weight, because when you got there, you had to make sure that it was weighed correctly, right?
No. I'm saying like where they put the drive, like where they
where? Yeah,
where they put the driver's seat. Because I think you would have had to done. I think they should have did the detour first, then did the driver's seat, because I think. And it's not even because, my team didn't get it or your team did get it. I just don't think it was good game management. I just think that they should have done the detour. The leg design should have been the detour. Then it should have been the driver's seat, because I think that would have been more dramatic to me. But, just minor complaint.
I didn't think that's what you were going to complain about, because I thought what you were going to complain about was the fact of the distributing of how much weight you had to use.
Mm-hmm.
That's what everybody else complained about. Like, I didn't understand why everybody was all huffy puffy about it. I was like, what are you supposed to? It's got to go to somebody. Now,
well, you are correct. I think. I mean, we can go over who they gave it to. Like, we can analyze it, because I would like to. And see if that was the correct decision, because I think there was one mistake they made. In my opinion, I'm not even mad about it, but I'm just saying, like, yes, you are correct. They had to do that. They had to do it. So I could probably say two mistakes they made. So if we're just talking about the distributing of the rice, first mistake they made, I think, was putting 25 onto Scott and Lori. And the reason why I say that, it is super early in the race still. I mean, it's relatively early. We're getting to the middle, but relatively early. They made a pact at the airport that they were going to stick together. And I just think they created too many enemies. And then this was even before I saw the preview. I just feel like they created too many enemies. I understand them giving the 15 to Melinda and Eric. I also understand giving them 15 for themselves. That makes sense, obviously. But then what doesn't really make sense is they were going to use their express pass on this. And
this is where I actually had the issue with. Because I was like, why? You just got it. Now, it did not look like, contrary to popular belief, it didn't look like it was that terribly easy. Yeah, okay, so you pound you're pounding against the can, basically, and that's distributing the rice, and then you put the rice in a bag, and then you put the bag up on basically an old school scale, if it was weighed at the proper weight. That's the issue I had. I personally didn't care about who got where and what. I mean, because you were going to make somebody mad anyway.
Yeah. Right. Well, that I agree with.
Yeah.
That I agree with. Here's what they should have done, though. If they were going to use that express pass, give yourself the 25. That way you make one less enemy, right? Now, granted, this is all analytical. This is all analytical, and it's not during the heat of the moment. Heat of the moment. You're not, and especially in Bali when it's like 100 degrees out, you're probably not thinking all this all the way through.
And there were some professional people that were just they were pounding the crap out of that stuff too.
Yeah.
I mean, that was my only issue, was that, and that's my concern, and that's what everybody else, Jack brought up on the mat. Why use the express pass there? Because you just got it.
Yeah, absolutely.
Wouldn't you want to use it later? No, that's obviously, we've seen it be used a little late, and we've seen it be used a little early.
Yes.
I mean, so
later is better.
Yeah, later generally is better. I mean,
Yep.
so we'll see what happens tomorrow, but that was my issue. Like everybody that was complaining about I thought Lori was just, being upset just to be upset. And guess what? You got to take your frustration out on it, didn't you? Which is exactly what you said. I get to take my frustration out now. Okay.
Yeah.
It's
Well,
go ahead.
I just think like this is a task that you don't even have to think. You just pound stuff and make 25 pounds of rice.
Yeah.
Or 15. Yeah. I mean, that wouldn't have been bad at all. They should have just did it. There's no judge really. It was just by a weight.
Yeah.
So they do that task, and then maybe you could have burned it at the detour. Probably would have been better. But I think they should have probably just held on to it, and then they would have had it for next week, especially with the vote. They had everything. They burned it way too quickly.
Yeah, I thought so.
So, and obviously we didn't know that as we were watching it, but
right.
But yeah, I mean they made that same mistake that the team 2 seasons ago made, where they just burned it super, like the first task almost that they got it at.
Right.
And but I mean, I'm not discrediting them. I don't really have a problem per se with how they distributed the weights. I don't think giving it to Scott and Lori would have been a good call, because they're going to take it as a slap in the face. And then, you get a U-turn, then you got more enemies. Whereas if they would have given them 15, I don't think they would have minded, so.
Yeah. I mean, I think that, so, I mean, it's a hard decision, right? Because you're standing there going, okay, we are here, meaning the position. We are here.
Yes.
We're in first.
Yep.
Do we know
the driver's seat? Yep.
Do we know what everybody else has done? No, not really, because we're worried about ourselves.
Correct.
So, I mean, it's 6 of one, half a dozen of another. You're gonna agitate somebody at some point, and you know what? It's gonna happen. So I thought, I also agree, by the way. I think Anna should have done it, truthfully, because it really didn't look too terribly hard. It's hot, but you know what? There's nobody else there, and you know what? Worst comes to worst, it's not like we haven't seen them be able to make up time. We've seen that for them. So it was just interesting. But yeah, so, go ahead.
Yeah, I think that that task really, it was hard work, but it wasn't hard to like get through it unless you were just really complaining about it.
Right. The detours were probably harder.
Yeah, I agree. Detours were a lot harder. But that's what they made. Let's talk about the cab driver for let's see, Brett and Mark. Let's talk about their cab driver who apparently didn't go the same direction that they typed in.
Yeah.
So that is something.
The right thing. He typed in the wrong thing.
Yeah, that's crazy.
Yeah.
Yeah. I feel for them, because I really, I had to move them down last week to 3rd, but I honestly feel like a lot of stuff has been taken out of their control.
Yeah.
And I don't think we've seen the real versions of them yet.
No.
And I'm still probably going to put them high tonight, because it's like a lot of stuff they've done has been pretty good.
Mm-hmm.
They're not number 1 good or 2 good even, but don't think we've seen the best of them yet.
Right.
And maybe I could be wrong, but yeah, I just think like that's a mistake that's really out of their control. So I'm not going to dock them too much, but I just thought that was interesting. That would frustrate me so much if I was on.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Anything else you want to talk about the rice challenge? I want to say that Erica or Melinda, she did a lot better than I thought she'd do at this task.
Yeah, and it was her first one.
Yep.
And she kind of crushed it. I mean, so
Yeah.
I was impressed.
Yeah, she really did. She really did. Yeah, that's really all there is to really say about this. Um, I guess we can kind of move on to the detour now. Um, all right. So then, after the roadblock, teams found their next clue at the Pingala Puran village. This lake's detour was a choice between Penyor or Pajigan. In Penyor, teams had to add decorations to a Penyor bamboo pole and then carry it to a stand before receiving their next clue. In Pajigan, teams had to memorize two Pajigans, purchase identical fruits used in the offerings, and recreate them. Teams then had to balance the Pajigans on their heads and bring them to a temple before receiving their next clue. So, Calbert, what are you picking for this week?
I'm doing Pajagan. I'm doing Pajagan because the other one was very, very, very attention to detail.
Mm-hmm.
Where the other one is, okay, that's pretty much on me for balancing the fruit, essentially. I mean, there was more stuff, but it was basically you're balancing fruit on top of your head.
Mm-hmm.
So that's the one I'm doing.
Yeah.
A lot of teams it looked like they split with them. So some of them went the wrong way, so they got stuck doing probably one that they didn't want to do.
Yeah.
But that's the one.
Which happens sometimes.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. And especially because of so when they got done with the poll, they had to pretty much, or with the design, they got the clue, and then they had to go put it in the hole, which that's not easy.
Right.
Because that thing is heavy. It looked like it was kind of windy, so where the other one is just balancing something that which by the way, I believe, if my memory serves me correctly, I believe it was Brett and Mark I'm sorry, it was Nick. I'm sorry, Nick spilled his fruit right on the judge. Oops, I got to pick all that up now.
Yeah. I mean, even the judge kind of said sorry. She probably felt bad that it fell.
Yeah.
I think I'm picking Pajagan too. I don't know why more teams didn't pick Pajagan. Maybe they just got scared by the fruits.
Yeah, I think it was probably finding the fruits, because Han and Holden took a while to find the apples in
But
particular.
they didn't even know that though.
True.
At the time. They didn't know where it was going to be that far back. But I agree, that would have freaked me out when you had to start walking through what looks like houses. That would have probably freaked me out. But I still think that task, I think, would have been a lot easier because you had less memorization, or you had to memorize it. But I feel like it wasn't too bad. You could easily break it down. Whereas the other one, it's like arts and crafts, and you got to be very intricate. And I would have done Pajagan. I'm surprised more teams didn't do that.
Yeah. I think they might have been worried to try and find all the stuff, because it did take some time to find the fruit. But yeah, I was surprised too. I was like, why aren't they doing this?
Yes.
It's you're basically, it's Jenga. You're stacking.
Yep. Well, did you also notice too, when Han and Holden didn't get the flowers correctly, the judge pointed out what they got wrong?
Yeah.
Instead of just saying no good. So I mean, that one clearly was the better one to do.
Yeah.
Which is kind of surprising that the judge actually helped out. But I guess each judge is different, so you really never know what they're going to do or what they're not going to do. So.
Yeah. True.
So. Other things to talk about here. I thought Carson and Jack really nailed this challenge. They arrived kind of later, but they were one of the first to leave.
Yeah, true.
So they were very impressive in this part. So big time kudos to them. I was impressed with their skills. Scott and Lori were bickering quite a bit. But they still did pretty well. Any Any other things you want to talk about this? Before we kind of talk about the major scramble where every team gets lost, pretty much.
And it went around in a circle.
Yes.
That was funny. No, I think the we kind of knew well, I'm projecting. I kind of knew that Scott and Laurie would kind of get back on the horse, and so would Jonathan and Anna, and Carson and Jack would get back on the horse, and it wouldn't take them long.
Well, yeah, they were the first 3 teams to arrive,
right,
and first 3 teams to finish,
right.
But there was some adversity.
Oh, sure.
Especially for Carson and Jack, like they weren't, they had to. There was a lot of back and forth going on, so.
True.
Yeah. Any other teams you want to talk about with this challenge? Obviously, Bernie and Kerrigan had to do 25 pounds at the Rice Challenge, and they got there quite late, and they were getting lost just trying to find the detour once they got to the clue box. So obviously, miscommunication, bickering, fighting obviously led to their downfall.
Which is pretty much what we said last week when we did part. We kind of saw this one coming.
Yep.
I mean, they did a good job of not throwing each other under the bus while they were on the mat, but like they bickered the entire day. Yeah. Like they even I think even if they would have caught a break, it wouldn't have mattered. Really, they're I mean, it's when you're fighting uphill on sand with a parachute, it's already hard enough as it is. And
I don't think they were they went as far as they could. Let's just put it that way.
Yeah.
I actually had them ranked a little higher because I thought they were going to be, pretty athletic. Right. But they just couldn't get out of their own way. Yep. And them being in the back definitely didn't help, but I don't think it was the whole reason they got eliminated.
No.
So I just think, there was something missing with them.
Yep.
So, and the bickering obviously didn't help at all. So,
no.
So, they don't really have anybody to blame but themselves, really. So,
right.
And then after a bunch of teams got done with the tasks, they were running around in circles. It did seem like a very confusing spot to find, to find Phil. So I will give them that benefit of the doubt.
I'll give Eric credit though, because she trusted the guy because
she did.
He looked on the guy's phone. And she's like, no, it's straight ahead.
Yeah, she stuck to her guns. Yep.
And ended up being right.
Yep. I think Melinda's got to trust her more, I would think.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. There was a bit of doubt there. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think Erica's clearly the MVP, but I mean Melinda did really good on the Rice Challenge, so I got to give her credit there. But Erica with the just telling her, hey, I trust me, it's this way. That was while all the teams were lost trying to find the pit stop, so that was huge for them, big boost for them.
Right.
So, one other thing I want to talk about before we talk about the standings. What do you think of the teams getting annoyed by Scott and Laurie saying that they're the oldest team? And
I kind of chuckled.
Yes,
I can't run, and I mean she's not wrong. Like older, right?
Yes.
I mean she's one of the oldest competitors still left.
Right.
Although I do notice that Pops doesn't really complain.
No. He doesn't complain at all. He just does it.
Yeah, I mean, so I did think I thought that was funny. I really did. And they were like, "Oh, look, we had the other part I chuckled at was I was like, oh, look, they had a kumbaya moment over the fact that they're, that they're basically, it sounded like they were all taking a shot at Scott and Laurie, and kind of, I thought, Jonathan and Anna.
Yes.
About using the express pass. Okay, fine. Guess what though? You're not in first and second, though, are you? So, I mean, you're allowed to say whatever you want on the map, but I did think that was funny. There was like, there are like 12 people. Like, I had to pause it so that I could take notes to make sure I had the right order of who came in where. And I felt bad for Phil because Phil didn't have that opportunity. Phil was like, okay, you were fifth, you were sixth, you were seventh, you were eighth, you were ninth.
Yeah. Yes, that was a lot of teams all at once. Yeah, for sure. So I just thought that was interesting. So there's a lot of good beef going on right now, I think. And it'll be interesting to see how this plays out. But let's go with the standings for the week. In first place, we have Jonathan and Anna. This is their second first place finish. They moved up 2 spots from last week, going from third to first. However, they did burn the express pass. But hey, I mean, that it got you to the next leg, and they still took first. So you can't really judge it yet. You kind of have to wait and see to see if that was a bad move. So we don't know if it was. I mean, I don't think I would have used it there, and I especially wouldn't have used it after, there was other strategy they could have used that would have been better. But coming in second this week was Carson and Jack. They stayed the same from last week. Coming in third this week is Scott and Lori. They dropped down 2 spots from first to third. Staying the same as well from last week is Melinda and Eric, coming in at fourth from some good directions. Coming in fifth this week was Alyssa and Josiah. They moved up 2 spots from 7th to 5th. Moving up 3 spots this week, one of the biggest jumps was Han and Holden, going from 9th to 6th. Moving down 2 spots this week was Brett and Mark, going from 5th to 7th. Not too bad considering their taxi cab drove them about 40 minutes out of the way.
Yeah. Yep.
Coming in at 8th this week, staying the same, was Nick and Mike. They could have done a lot better this week. They had opportunities to do better this week. So they just could not find that pit stop. So moving down 3 spots this week was Pops and Jeff, going from 6th to 9th. And taking last, staying the same from 10th to 10th, is Bernie and Kerrigan. Are we going to miss anything with Bernie and Kerrigan?
Other than the bickering? No.
Yeah, that's really all they brought to the table, honestly.
It's kind of like if you and I went to lunch, or you and I were deciding what we were going to have for lunch.
Yes.
I asked, what for lunch? And you go, I don't know. What do you want?
Yes.
And we bicker for 20 minutes.
Indecisive.
Indecisive. Very much so. Very much so.
Yep.
Yeah.
Indecisive.
No surprise. No surprise. But I think we're getting closer as we go on to some teams are starting to separate themselves, I think, and some kind of aren't, I think. But
yes. Yes, I agree. Even though I still think it's pretty wide open, I still don't. I feel like we are almost at a tier list, but there's still some question marks I have with some teams. So I still think we could get some shuffling of the deck, so to speak. So, all right, let's go to power rankings. I think it should be pretty interesting this week. So we're going to start off with number 9. I believe I started off this week. Okay, so my 9th place team at this point, I think I got to go with, this is very tough, but I got to go Han and Holden. Like, they had a really big jump this week, but I just don't trust them. Like, there's just something about them. Like, I think they kind of they had opportunities to finish a lot quicker than they did, and they just could not get it done. So Number ninth place right now, Hunt and Holden for me. Calbert.
9, I have Pops and Jeff. It's just because of where they finished. I think if they would have caught a break or two, it would have helped them. But I fluctuated between. I really almost put Nick and Mike in 9th, just because they haven't finished great.
Yeah.
But I gotta go Pops and Jeff. I'll say this. I don't think Pops and Jeff get eliminated. I think they can. They can bounce back and they can push themselves up. My 8th spot is Nick and Mike, though. I think it would not surprise me if Nick and Mike got eliminated tomorrow. Not one bit. They've gone, just to put in perspective, they've gone 10th, 8th, 8th the last 3 weeks.
Yeah.
That's not good.
Yeah.
They took forever to decide to do the paper mache last week. They got lost with doing the big circle. So I have Nick and Mike at 8.
Yeah, that's who I got at 8th too. They've not been able to get it together. Just something about them. They just like the attention to detail probably is not their biggest strength, and I just don't know. They cannot really figure it out. I mean, something with them just isn't clicking, and they're able to get by because they're relatively young and really good shape. But yeah, something, unless they get like a really like sports challenge, I don't see them lasting too much longer. But I got them a little bit ahead of Han and Holden. So it's funny how they were both working together this episode. But I got Nick and Mike at 8 right now. So for 7, I think I have to go Pops and Jeff. I don't think they had a bad leg per se. I actually thought they had a pretty good leg. They had a lot of stuff thrown in their way this week. So I still think I think they're just slightly below the next team I have. So yeah,
Okay.
Good Pops and Jeff at 7.
7 for me. I'll take Han and Holden. It's close. They could very well be eliminated tomorrow. That wouldn't surprise me either, because they've gone 11th, 9th, and 6th the last 3 weeks. That's not good. Granted, they didn't bicker as much this week as they did the week before, but there's still signs there. At least for me. 6, I'm gonna go Brett and Mark. I agree with you. This week wasn't their fault. It's totally on the cap. But you can't go 9th, 5th, and 7th. We had them higher up, and they should be doing a lot better than where they've been currently. But I got Brett and Mark at 6. It's not their fault for the cap driver. I'm not faulting them for this week. But they got to pick it up. I think they know that.
Yeah, I agree. My 6 right now is Melinda and Erica. They don't really get the tasks done that quickly. They do better than I think they do, but as of right now, I just think that they're due like they're going to get by a little bit. I think Erica is doing a really good job, and Melinda is not really hurting the team at all. The only thing she would maybe hurt is trying to disagree with the directions that Erica got. Erica's clearly like the leader of the team.
Yeah.
So I don't know. Right now I got them at 6. I don't think I can put them ahead of some of the other teams. So my number 5 right now is Brett and Mark. I got them down to 5, but I honestly think I don't see what else can go wrong for them, to be honest. I think we're going to see a good stretch of that for them coming up, but you never know.
Sure.
And you are right. And they do got to start proving it that they can, get back in the top, and they haven't really been able to do that yet. But I think soon they will be able to. So, Calbert, who do you got at year 5?
5, I have your team. I have Alyssa and Josiah. They were kind of quiet this week. They just kind of put their heads down and just kind of went to work.
Mm-hmm.
I got them at 5. They're fine. Like I wouldn't be overly concerned with anything they're doing. I mean, they had their one little meltdown last week, but they fixed it real quick and went, okay, we suck at this. Let's go. Let's do the paper mache. So and they're consistent. They've finished 5th. So we'll see. 4, I have. I'm going to take Melinda and Erica. I was impressed with Melinda. I wasn't exactly sure what she could do. So I got them at 4. I could see them getting eliminated though this week too. Like that's my. I had 3 teams in my head that I thought could get eliminated. They were the last one that I thought could get eliminated. So yeah, I have Melinda and Erica at 4.
Okay. My number 4 team right now is Alyssa and Josiah. It's similar to Brett and Mark, where I feel like they haven't had like a real roadblock that really complements their strengths yet. I'm kind of waiting for that, but I thought this week, given the fact that they had 25 pounds, they handled that really well. And then they did the arts and craft challenge pretty well too. So, and they finished 6th, but because of all the teams getting lost, they were able to actually jump up 1 from that point to move to 5th. So they also seem to be able to outrun some of the teams. So I got to give them some props there. But right now I got them at 4. So number 3, I got Scott and Lori. I think people are starting to kind of get onto their game a little bit, as we saw in this episode. And I think it may come back to bite them. They also do show some signs of bickering.
Sure.
But they're competitors, though. I will give them that. They are very, very good at tasks too. So they are my number 3 right now.
3, I have Scott and Lori also. I think that I mean, this isn't going to be a surprise with my three teams that I'm going to say next. They're one of the ones that I think are starting to separate themselves. You're right, though. You're right. Like we don't audience, we don't know who's going to be voted for to have to do both detours tomorrow. But you got to think it's going to be these. Scott and Lori is probably going to be on a lot of people's list, I would think. We'll see. I mean, they're consistent. 3rd, 1st, 3rd. I mean, you can't ask for more. I mean, and yeah, Lori got a little upset because she had to do the rice. Okay. She kind of crushed it quickly. Bless you. 2. Man. I'm gonna go with Carson and Jack. They're another consistent team, and I got these guys wrong. I did in the pre-power rankings. I really did. I got them wrong. Pops, that's what I've learned so far this season. Pops and Jeff I got wrong, and Carson and Jack I got wrong, badly, because they're consistent.
Hey, give yourself some credit for Scott and Lori, though. You were pretty high on them at the start.
True.
So.
Sure.
Yep.
So I have Carson and Jack at 2. Their last 3 weeks, 1st, 4th, 2nd. I'm sorry, 4 weeks. 1st, 4th, 2nd, 2nd. They're consistent. So I have Carson and Jack at 2.
Jack 2. Yeah, that's where I got Carson and Jack as well. 2. They're a really good team. I honestly think you could argue them at 1 if you wanted.
Sure.
Their worst finish was 4th place, so that's pretty solid. But yeah, they haven't shown like the dominance quite yet. They haven't really, because remember their first place was doing the fork in the road, so that wasn't technically a first. So right now I got them at 2 though. They're pretty solid at that spot, but I need to see a little bit more from them to rank them at 1. So obviously my first place team is Jonathan and Anna. However, They've ran a great race. You got the express pass. You've done everything. You've gotten to the challenges relatively quick. However, I just think like there were some mistakes made out there today. There were distributing of the weights, putting Scott and Laurie on. I don't think if you made alliance, I think they should have stuck to it, especially with it being so early in the race. Like I totally understand breaking it later because
Sure.
less teams,
Sure.
but I think they should have kept them at the 15 pounds and then using the express pass on a challenge that I mean, I just don't know why they burned it. They were in first. So even if it is time consuming, every other team still got to do it too. So
Right.
I think they should have kept that in their back pocket. Yeah, but just kind of going from what we've seen right now, I'm moving them to 1, but you could argue a lot of other teams too, though, but I got them at 1.
Sure. I also have Jonathan at 1. That's back-to-back weeks. I've had them at 1. I'm concerned. I have 2 concerns, and they're both pretty big. A, I don't exactly know what Anna can do yet, because every time she's tried to do something, it's taken her a minute. For example, like the hacky sack thing last week, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And Jonathan, if he had here, he would have lost it. And 2, burning the express pass. That's probably going to come back to bite them. And it's my team. I can say that it's probably going to come back to bite them. How are they going to respond? Because I have a feeling that they're going to be picked to do both detours tomorrow because they're in first, right? So
yeah.
How do we get them out first? How do we put pressure on them? Make them do both of them. So I have them at 1, but I am and that's my team. I picked them. I am very, very concerned heading into tomorrow.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's very possible to we've seen it where teams have had to do both challenges and they've rocked it.
Sure.
Will they get first next week? Probably not. But I mean, there's no reason they can't get a third or a fourth, and stay up there.
Sure.
So if they can get over that, then they can get over anything basically. So next week, I think it will really, if they do get picked, I think it'll be a very we'll really see what they're made of next week because my concerns with them at the beginning where I've started to see them bicker a lot and whatnot.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
will this turn into a bicker fest? Who knows?
Yeah.
So, but it is interesting though how the Amazing Race gives a driver's seat task and then does it with a U-turn vote. So it's almost like they set up whoever won the driver's seat, they set up to get U-turned basically. So
pretty much.
So yeah, that is very interesting. All right, what would you rank this week's episode?
Just based off of the ATV, I gave this, and it was kind of challenging, but I gave this episode a 6. It was pretty good. It really was.
Mm-hmm.
Both detours were interesting. It was really, really close to the mat. I mean, Carson and Jack could have gotten first. It wasn't out of the run. And then watching 8 teams do an actual freaking circle was funny to me. But yeah, so I give it a 6.
I gave this episode a 7.5. I thought it was really good visually. Thought the tasks were pretty interesting. The driver's seat stipulation that they added was pretty cool. I enjoyed that. And I thought the detour was not the most exciting detour, but it was still really cool to see that part of the world and see, how different everything is. So I thought it was a pretty solid episode, honestly. So I thought it was better than last week's. So
yeah, I thought so too. Much better than last week.
Yeah, absolutely. All right. Next week, tomorrow, where are we going?
It's not personal, it's business. That's the name of the episode. The only thing I know is that it does not say on anything that I have found about where they're going. So I'm going to assume they're going to stay in Indonesia.
Okay.
Because the following week they go to Dubai.
Okay.
So Phil shocks. This is tomorrow's episode. Phil shocks the teams when he announces a surprise where teams most cast have their votes live, and the two teams with the most votes are required to complete both detours. So
Wait a sec now. You're saying teams, as
teams.
in plural.
Yes, two teams.
Oh, okay. So I think they did this last time.
Yep.
This was the season with Colin and Christie.
Correct. Yep.
And Colin and Christie did get picked to do both tasks, I believe, and they actually did pretty well, actually, despite that. Okay, so that is very interesting. So it's two teams that are getting picked. So you're not doomed because you have another team that has to do the same thing.
Right. So can you beat the other team is basically what you have to think. Can we beat the other? Like, so say, for example, I'm just going to use Scott and Laurie as the example. Let's say Jonathan Nana and Scott and Laurie get picked. Can we beat Scott and Laurie to the mat? Period. Yeah. That's all it is. Can we?
Yeah.
If we can, cool. I mean, because that's judging by the preview, which I know is a terrible thing for us to do. There's already going to be some fighting between a couple teams. One team gets picked, and they don't want to be friends with the other team. Okay. Yep. I didn't know we were here to make friends. I thought we were here to try and win money.
Well, you're there to make them think you're their friend. You know, I mean, look at oh gosh, what was it season 29 when Scott and I forgot her name. You know, remember they won. He was all about doing the social game and. Yeah, so who knows? I mean, honestly, who knows? But are we pretty sure it's going to be? We pretty much think it's going to be Scott and Laurie and Jonathan and Anna, right?
I would be surprised. I would be surprised if it wasn't those two. I really I would be surprised because what advantage you would throw away the advantage that you would have because the other 7 teams only have to do one.
Yep.
So one you're throwing the advantage that you have away.
Yeah.
So, and hey, look, this is a way for. I mean, I'm going to guess it's going to be one team that gets eliminated, but we don't know that, right? So,
right.
You know, how do we get rid of that's how you get rid of the top tier teams, right? If it's me and you, right? If it's me and you, and we're Pops and Jeff, you know, who's currently 9th. All right, we have no choice.
Yeah, you're definitely going to. Well, obviously for them too, you have the motivation to U-turn.
Right,
Jonathan and Anna.
Right. I just think that I don't know anything. I really don't. I don't know anything. That would be what I would do. Unless I'm absolutely positive that by reading the clue, I can do that one task, I'm making the other 2 teams do it. So like if you're Carson and Jack, for example, right? You know, and you've done all this talking, right? And you've talked specifically about Jonathan and Anna and how they burned their express pass. Well, you pretty much just told me you're putting them on your list then.
Mm-hmm.
Basically. Whether the first and second, I don't think it ultimately matters. But, you know, that's basically what you said. So
I could make a case to get rid of or to vote Carson and Jack too, though.
You could. Yeah, you could. Yep. Sure.
I mean, granted, you know, they seem like they're getting upset with Scott and Laurie's, you know, saying they're the oldest team and whatnot. But I mean, do we think Scott and Laurie is a better racing team than Carson and Jack? No. I don't know. That's, you know, you could make a case for them too. I honestly think so.
You could. Yeah, you could. And I think that's the reason why Phil's doing it this way, right? Because it's not secretive, right?
Yep.
You can't just be mad at one team. Then you have to be mad at multiple teams.
Right. You know? Not just one team is getting
Right.
getting screwed over basically.
Correct. Yeah.
So.
Right.
No, I get that. So, do you think going further do you think we're going to get a new gimmick every week? Because it kind of seems like that's what this season's all about.
Yeah. It's very, very likely. So for example, when they go to Dubai on the 9th, they do some pretty, or at least from what I'm reading of the preview, they do kind of an interesting thing in that the fast forward is used or can be used. So for those that don't remember, the fast forward allows the team to skip all the remaining tasks and head straight to the pit stop. Right.
Yeah, it's pretty much like the Express,
Correct.
but it's like its alternative route, so to speak. And yeah, you basically bypass the episode.
Correct.
Or all the tasks on the episode on the leg.
Yeah.
So it's a little different than the Express, but
it is.
Yeah.
Yeah. So and they're going to get the skydive in Dubai.
That'll be interesting.
Which is cool. So, and one team wins the classic game piece, the fast forward, allowing them to skip all their main tasks and head straight to the pit stop. So we don't obviously know who that is, but we know that they're going to Dubai the following week. So the 9th of April, they're going to Dubai. So, and they're going to skydive. That's pretty freaking cool. So we'll see what happens. We obviously don't know. We'll find out tomorrow night. But
and obviously we're probably going to Europe after Dubai.
I would assume so. Yeah.
So that makes sense. So yeah, interesting season. Like from last season where we didn't really get hardly any gimmicks. So we're getting a gimmick every week.
Hey, we're throwing you one every week.
Yep. Hey, you didn't get one? Well, we're giving you a ton now. So enjoy.
Right.
So personally, I like it. I think it makes things a lot more interesting. So, all right. Any final comments, Calbert?
Should be fun. We don't know if I'm going to venture a guess that at some point we'll have a non-elimination, but we won't know that until later. I'm going to guess that we're going to be down to 8 come tomorrow. So we'll be down to 8 teams come tomorrow night.
Yeah, I don't think they've said this season that there's going to be an elimination every week. So I don't think they said that like they did last season or the season before that. So I think at some point we probably are going to get a non-elimination. So that'll be interesting. So anyways, that'll do it for Amazing Reviews, recapping Amazing Race 37, episode 4. For Calbert, for Hurls, we'll see you next week. Have a good one.
Have a good night, everybody.